Good morning, Yasha Allah, to 12 tribes who have been scattered abroad and who have been delivered from 400 years of brutal enslavement and unprecedented cruelty and destruction. So much so that the books have been opened in the Shamayim so that an account has been in process of, or for the purpose of scrutinizing the enslavement, let's say in short, the enslavement of the 12 tribes by the principles of worldly dominion and rulership, i.e., chief of the fallen one, Gadriel, Satan, and his second in command, Edom, and the third, Levi. So let's look at the account that has been in process of bringing forth the credit and debit balances of these books that have been opened in the Shamayim of Abba Yahweh to the praise of his Mashiach, the one altogether lovely Mashiach, the rod of his power. So let's go into it in the name of the Mashiach. Zechariah chapter 3. First of all, I want to make another comment on the matter of this habit of Esau to steal identity. And I gave some examples of that. And I'm sure so many of us have thoughts on the identity theft that Esau has conducted in the earth for so long a time. You know, Yochanan 10 and 10 shows us that a thief, and you can multiply that by a plurality of thieves that will come to kill and steal and destroy. And I'm sure many of us can testify on the behalf of Gadriel or Satan, who modified his name and placed it in our scriptures as God, the chief of thieves and robbers and murderers. So as we continue scrutinizing, looking over, checking the credit and debit balances of the nations of Gadriel and all the fallen ones with him, Esau. And now, in addition, we have Levi. We see here in Zechariah chapter 3, where Yahushua Yeshua, the high priest, is standing before the Malachim of Yah. And it has been my privilege to disclose to you by the power of the Ruach that this Malachim standing before Yahweh the Most High is none other than our high priest today, Yahweh Shai, Yahusha, Hamashiach. That's the one standing before the Most High on behalf of Yeshua, right? Yahushua. Now, before I go, or before we get deeper into this, I want to say again, make another remark on the matter of this thievery that is shown forth in the book of Yochanan, chapter 10, verse 10. And we see from this, and we know many examples of the thievery of Esau all across the earth. And we have one of our, I think I could say, dearly beloved of historical accounts in the area of the craft of writing or authorship in the area of writing. I'm speaking of our beloved Shakespeare, that Esau has sought to take credit from and say that he is Shakespeare. I mean, like that is a light piece of theft when you consider the matter that Esau has also, to his account, that he stole or tried to steal the identity of the Mashiach, of whom is mentioned boldly in the Nicene Creed, that under Pontius Pilate, this record cannot be expunged, that Esau destroyed the Mashiach boldly and viciously. It is written in the annals of eternity. But look what Esau is seeking to do today. He's trying to wash away all that history with some lies to exonerate himself from his prized possession that was from the book of Genesis, when we deal with the birthright story of Jacob and Esau. You see where he was so desirous of destroying the Most High work of salvation in the earth. And he reached his goal under Pontius Pilate and Herod. I mean, what a fella is Esau. He named his goal and what he wanted to achieve. And bingo, he did it in the crucifixion of the Mashiach. But look at him today. He's trying to hide it. He tries to hide it. After bragging you know, I guess at the height of his power, he brags how he destroyed the Mashiach under Pontius Pilate. But I'm thinking again of the matter of Shakespeare. I'm thinking of, as I mentioned before, the Apostle Shaw, that you see Esau write books on and show this what we call white man to be the Apostle Paul, right? Apostle Shaul, who was my forefather. And if you look at me, I think you might make the declaration that I am not a white man, and I am the same hue and complexion of the Apostle Shaul. We're from the same tribe. But I was mentioning Shakespeare. Shakespeare says in his writings, I think in his sonnets, I believe it's in the sonnets. In any case, within the framework of the writings of Shakespeare, he makes the historical poetics when he mentions the word to be or not to be. I forget the name of the work that the compilation that those words come from, but to be or not to be. I think in general, the whole world recognizes those words. When we think of it, to be or not to be, I think we could imagine, it's easy for us to imagine that in old England, where Israel, ancient, Yasha lived in the, from the Dark Ages, the time of the Dark Ages, up to Shakespeare. I think it would be easy, indeed, for us to imagine the fight that they, as blacks, were having from the imposition of Edom to subjugate them, bring them under his banner, if I may use the word, to bring them under his rule, according to the prophecy of his blessing that our forefather Yitzhak pronounced upon him, which actually was a sharing off of the original blessing that was given to Jacob, where the Most High put it so that forefather Yitzhak shaved off a piece of it and gave it to, pronounced it upon Esau. And didn't he run with it? And didn't he fulfill his part of that blessing to dominate the earth, to even fulfill his will, to crush the principal offering of the birthright, that was the Messiah, the Mashiach. So you find Shakespeare talking about to be or not to be. That is the question. I say these words to give some meaning to what I believe, what I think, and what the records of history show concerning the struggle so-called blacks had in the Dark Ages, in the fight with Esau. And the times would have come to the crucial point where one like Shakespeare had to make the statement pertaining to the endurance that was needed to go through those hard times. Esau against Jacob in England. And imagine Shakespeare putting it in poetry, to be or not to be. That is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to take up arms against the sea of trouble and by opposing end them, the fight with Esau from Jacob, that was of such magnitude that, like we have had it today, very life was in question, whether to be or not to be, because this was the fight with Esau that the regular history that Esau has hidden doesn't let you see. But Shakespeare certainly referenced it in his words, that they were having serious conflict with Esau and England. And so he did that masterful poetry to express the magnitude of the struggle that he and Yasha'Allah was having in those years. It's a slight reference to bring you up, Yasha'Allah, to the understanding of the depth of poetry and the poetics of Shakespeare, our brother, our forefather. Move a little further now still then to the fact that I want to mention again that tithing as a church exercise is finished. With the death, burial, and resurrection of the Mashiach, it was done away with. And this same tithing matter has been the bedrock that produced or been at the root of the production of enslavement of the 12 tribes. In any case, in chapter 3 of Zechariah, we're looking at what was going on with the priesthood as what is going on with the priesthood now, today. In Zacharias' day, he saw the vision of the Mashiach, who is called here the angel of Yah, standing, or Zechariah indeed, standing before the angel of Yah, which was the Mashiach. And so Satan was standing there to resist him. And I went over this a little bit with you before to show the magnitude of this prophecy, where the Mashiach is portrayed and shown in the prophecy, in the vision given to Zechariah, that at the command or the direction of Yahweh himself, the Mashiach represents the will of the Father as the one who would be forthcoming to be the sacrificial lamb for the sin of the world, we say, for the sins of Yasha'Allah. But Satan, who became the ruler, the God of this world, with the fall of Hawa and Adam, Satan comes to represent his position as head of state of the earth. If you didn't notice that before, now you get the privilege to see it as the Ruach is bringing it to us. So Satan comes to stand up, to resist this ceremony that is going on, because he understands that from the priesthood order, this is how the Most High transfers or brings forth his directions or directive to the nation, in this case, Yasha Allah, and so brings forth his 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 interest, his desire, his determination to carry forth the work of governance from his authority, from his position. All right, and so as we see this book of Zechariah portraying coming events in the life of the Messiah, where in the period of time, as I was showing to you before, where the house of Judah or Yehoiada was moving towards liberation from 70 years of Babylonian captivity, like we have been for 400 years and freed only very recently, few months. And look at the brutal treatment that we endured from then. And in some degree till now, because our total release has not been finalized yet. You got to get this Yasha Allah. And in this period, as Zechariah was viewing it and seeing the opposition of Satan against the priesthood, I want you to get this. It was against the priesthood that Satan was bringing his attack, because the priesthood was the one carrying forth the word of the Most High for the purpose of governing the nations in the declaration of Torah. You remember the priesthood, the work of the priesthood was to speak, and rehearse the Torah in the ears of Yasha Allah continuously. And in the feast times, the feast seasons, and set apart times, the Torah was maybe I could use the word ceremoniously. The Torah was ceremoniously proclaimed among the tribes. And so the fact that Yeshua was the priest and under the command of Torah to do this ministry as they were moving towards the ending of the 70-year captivity, the Mashiach, the Malachim of Yah, came to, build up Zechariah as the priest who would continue with expounding the Torah, and to let Yasha Allah know that their priest whom they looked for. You remember somewhere in these books that it was said that the master whom you seek, maybe it's in Malachi, shall suddenly come to his temple. So there are, many prophecies concerning the coming of the Mashiach to conduct the ministry of reconciliation in the sacrifice of himself, letting himself be sacrificed for the redemption of the nation of Yasha Allah. Of course, Satan was there to resist that because he wanted to block the salvation process. As you see, it was the work of Esau to carry forth and accomplish under Pilate and Herod, Edomites. So, but you see here, Satan is directing his attack against the priesthood. So this is very interesting. As you go through the earlier scriptures of the Torah and the prophets, you begin to see where the priesthood being given the mandate to teach the Torah to the congregation of 12 tribes. The priesthood was often falling down. And matter of fact, as the nation went into their seasons of decline, I think you would see that predominantly it was the slackness of the priesthood that was at the head, or that was leading the population, the nations, the tribes, into idolatry and to the breaking of Torah and allowing Satan and his fellows freedom and more freedom into the nation to destroy it. And so you have Zechariah here, or Joshua, the high priest, standing before the Mashiach, who also is in the presence of the Most High Yah. And Yeshua is receiving priestly encouragement and instruction to be a good priest. And thus, you see all through this book of Zechariah, many prophecies coming forth to describe the manner of the priesthood of the Mashiach that is forthcoming. But so the prophet has the view, showing us the view of the consecration of the priest to carry forth the ministry of reconciliation unto the time of the coming of the Mashiach. And Satan was there to oppose the priesthood. And there we see where Levi was compromised, or being compromised steadily throughout the reign or the reigning of the priesthood and the kingdom of Yasha'Allah in totality, through the reigning of these kings and the priesthood. That's Gadriel. Satan was at hand trying to corrupt the priesthood, because the priesthood had the mandate to teach, instructions of the Torah to keep the nation in good repair while they were waiting for the coming forth of the Mashiach, who would bring all things, to order as the ultimate priest. He was coming forth to be the ultimate priest. And hence you see the work of Satan, I strongly believe, having an eye to the knowledge of Mashiach. In fact, it is stated explicitly in the book of Psalm, chapter 110, I believe it is, in verse 4, that the coming forth of the Mashiach was to fulfill a priesthood order after Melchizedek. And this is only because of the unfaithfulness of Levi. Because when you size it up, or when you look through and through the prospect of the priesthood, you find that when Mashiach came on the scene in Matthew, in the four, what do you call the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Yohanan, you see that without fail, Yohanan, who was a Levite, was true to the cause and faithful to his purpose of proclaiming to the nation that the Mashiach had come, and that in his day he would say, "Behold, the Lamb of Yah, who takes away the sin of the world." This was the blessing of the ministry of Levi. And this was the kind of administration of the priesthood that Satan, Gadriel, was trying to water down, if you will, but trying to destroy the priesthood from being able to fulfill its mission to even proclaim the Mashiach coming, as Yochanan did. And so we look through the 70-year captivity in Babylon that is being referenced here, talked about by Zechariah, showing that eventually the house of Judah, Yehoiada, would be let free from that 70-year captivity. And I think I can safely say that Ezekiel was in that captivity as well, who prophesies about the dry bones. I think we got to go and study these books some more and get a firmer grasp of the prophetic ministry in that 70-year captivity. I think we will see that there was a host of prophecies, a plethora of prophecies coming forth in that 70-year captivity that proclaim the work of the ministry of the Mashiach. We need to go and check it out, Yasha Allah. Check these books, what they call the books of the prophets, and see the work that they were doing, that they indeed had done. And Levi was prominent in the prophetic concerning the Mashiach. He was the priest. He was the priesthood representing the chief priest, as we are shown in the books, in the four Gospels, where you have all this activity going on concerning the opposition of the priesthood to the Mashiach in his day, as he had come, according to these prophecies we're looking at in Zechariah. And so it was, as I am expressing to you, work of Satan to bring down the priesthood, to diminish the exercise of priesthood, and if possible, to bring an end to the ministry of the Mashiach to give his life for the sins of the world. But we see eventually that after all those beautiful prophecies of Zechariah, that the time finally had come and the 70-year captivity in Babylon was ended. And Ezekiel and Daniel and the three Hebrew boys, all these, our forefathers and elders were set free to go back to live in Jerusalem. As we, likewise, are waiting now, after 400 years. Put 40 up against 400. It's a big difference, eh? And we have been similarly freed. More or less, I mean, it would appear to be something of a trial basis, because in this setting or letting go period that where we are now, in like manner with the Babylonian captivity of old days, we have been in this Babylonian captivity that was conducted under the order of Esau. Because remember, when Esau took his leave of Greece through Alexander and went into Mitzrayim, Egypt, to learn the knowledge of Mitzrayim, in his travels, he came into contact with both Egypt, Mitzrayim, and Babylon. And he learned, this is Esau, learned of their manner of conduct in kingdom governance. Esau was already rising as a prominent kingdom and a conqueror figure. And so he followed in the steps of the prophetic to dominate the earth, to have the dominion. And finally to throw off all restraint of being under the dominion, if I may use that word, of Yasha'Allah, of Israel. I think it was maybe under Solomon, in the time of that period of the reigning of our kings of Yasha'Allah, that Edom broke away from being under the supervision of the 12 tribes. And having broken away, I think somewhere in between his real breaking away and the Babylonian captivity, or the reign of Nebuchadnezzar unto the reign of Persia, and then Greece, I think it is. There's where Esau comes in to begin his domination of the world and to manifest the power of his opposition. because he had the opposition in him from he and Jacob was dealing with birthright in the early times of our forefather Abraham. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Jacob. And so now, in the times of these kings, Babylonian captivity and so on, about the time of that 70-year period, if we look at it, and this is my view at the time being anyway, Esau rose up as the Grecians and made their way into Mizraim in Egypt to learn as much of the knowledge of Egypt as they could endure. I mean, we can look at the process or Esau's processing of kingdom management that shows us that he couldn't handle all the knowledge of Mizraim or of Egypt that was, I suppose, available to him. In any case, as much as was available to him, we can see if we put his knowledge against the knowledge of the Egyptians, Mizraim, that the knowledge he has gained is not sufficient, or his use of the knowledge is not equivalent to the mastery of that same knowledge that is portrayed in Mizraim. I can give you an example in the Sephirothal tree of Amun-Ra. Esau had to put together what is called a Zohar and to sneak through the back door to show you his principles of the Zohar that portrays Amun-Ra's Sephirothal tree that Esau is laying claim to as his knowledge. But this was the knowledge of Mizraim, of the ancient Egyptians. But from it, I suppose the oral traditions gave him the extra boost. I'm speaking of Esau, gave him extra confidence in what he learned from Mizraim to put into practice or to assist him in achieving dominance in the area of the production of slavery, because he knew that Mizraim had done it already over the 12 tribes. And taking hold of the knowledge of Mizraim, he comes forth in the time of the days of Herod the king, comes forth to implement the knowledge of slavery that he had gained in Mizraim back in the day, around the time of these same prophecies we're dealing with in Zechariah, around the time of the 70-year captivity. This is my view of it for the time being, because I have not gone in depth into the study to, do a pinpoint of each detail. But I think generally, Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, or Darius, some people say, Artaxerxes and so forth, around these times, near the 70-year captivity, is when Esau came into prominence out of Greece under Alexander. And Alexander's, with his four generals, that is, out of them, came forth the ones who got the knowledge of Mitzrayim and learned the enslavement process or processes. Esau came back to his home and perpetrated on the nation, even to the point of the crucifixion of the Mashiach. He got his revenge that he was seeking for in the time of the offering of the birthright. And so when we look at the contrast now of Esau and Levi who was fighting hard, as we see Joshua, the high priest, before the Mashiach, who was before the Most High, Yah, all of them, working together against the intrusion of the one who caused the fall of Hawa and Adam. This was the fight. This is why Satan came to represent his dominion of the earth. It was under his charge. And the Mashiach was coming forth to destroy his dominion over the earth and to set man back in order of rulership. I think you begin to see the picture more clearly of what the Messiah or the Messiahship was about. But in any case, you're getting to see how Levi has come into the corruption that has overtaken him, that has led him into the anti-Messiahship. We're going to go on and break it down as we go on because we are in the sealing time to seal the 12 tribes of the children of Yasha'Allah. Right? And this time, as I showed you before, is analogous to the sealing that was carried forth in this same period of time we're looking at here in Zechariah. And we see it in the book of Ezekiel. And as I said before, Ezekiel was in the same 70-year captivity period when he witnessed the sealing. All right. So I think that we are now beginning to get a clear picture of Satan's hold on the earth and on the world, as we say, from the time of Adam and Hawa, when they picked and ate the fruit of the forbidden tree. When their eyes were opened, it means that they lost the seal or the sealing of their being, their own humanity was compromised because the sealing that was accomplished in the reception or in the gift of the Ruach that was with them, first with Adam, who was the man created first. The woman wasn't there yet. But when he was created, the Ruach was with him. and was the one who guided him and directed his knowledge and all of that. But when the woman came and she ate, and then the man ate, the fall was completed, and the Ruach left. Satan and the demonic realm, and now with the help of Levi, who has absconded from the priesthood, who has, as his word, destroyed the priesthood. I mean, this was his wish anyway, and we're going to bring it out in another lesson. That it became the wish and the will of Levi that Satan was trying to accomplish, even when he came to resist the Mashiach at the what do we call it? The ceremony of anointing Joshua, the priest. Levite, these were Levite. This was a Levite. But you see that Satan was going after the priesthood from early times. This is what I should like you to see, Yasha Allah, that Satan was after the priesthood from earlier times. And he finally succeeded. And we're going to go to that and show you. And so upcoming in the other lessons, we will go into the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution to show you the progress of the fall of Levi. Right from here in this book of Zechariah. So may the Most High bless you, Yasha Allah, keep you. Stay strong in the Most High and in Mashiach, in the Ruach, and let us grow. Keep on reading and studying. We're getting there, Yasha Allah. So bless you. May the Most High keep you. Let his face shine upon you and give you shalom. Give us all shalom in Mashiach.